CRA for 34 years. So to try to tell you everything that's good about the firm in 15 minutes or less, I'll take a shot out of it. I also have my colleague Chad Holmes, our Chief Corporate Development Officer, here with me. So I'll try to go through quickly the directed comments, because one of the main reasons we go to these conferences is to learn about how you see CRA. The things that are value creating in your eyes or things that are problematic in your eyes. So, the CRA was founded in 1965. Charles River, particularly for someone like me who's headquartered in Boston, has some meaning. We were founded by professors from Harvard and MIT, and the river is what connected the two universities together. It's not a very unique name up in New England, but it has some meaning to us. The reason these professors founded the firm is they wanted to bring academic quality research to the business world to allow leaders to make more informed decisions. That was our foundation back in 1965. That is still our foundation today, is how do we bring the analytical tools of economics, finance, statistics to the business world, which is particularly relevant with the proliferation of information today to help CEOs and managers make more informed decisions. We have two main lines of business, legal and regulatory, which probably no one is familiar with, and more traditional management consulting. The legal and regulatory makes up about 80% of the company's revenue, and the management consulting the remaining 20% of that revenue. So we are, as you can imagine, for a firm that likes to lead with academic quality research, my colleagues are pretty pedigreed. About 40% of my senior colleagues are PhDs. A number of them former professors, about 80% all advanced degrees. So it is about as academic-like an environment for a non-academic institution. So, and this starts getting into some of those statistics that we talked about. If CRA was a university, we would be the most selective university in the world. We accept less than 10% of our applicants, and these are applicants from the most prestigious universities across the globe. So it takes a lot of effort. In addition to doing conferences like this, my fall is largely made up of going to various universities and meeting with respective students on that. Once we recruit, our focus is on developing our colleagues. We have very little turnover at CRA, lower than industry standards. What I'm going to highlight is the upper right-hand corner there, where it says less than 10% voluntary turnover amongst our top revenue generators. What do I mean by that? So every year I give our board of directors an exhibit of here are our top 30 revenue generators for that given year. And as you can imagine, in any year, it changes. So if I look at over a 5-year period of time, I probably have a union of roughly 60 people. So over those 5 years, about 5 people have left. Both people that maybe we have out-counseled or they have decided to leave. And the reason we highlight these is these revenue generators can go anywhere. Can go anywhere they want, but they're electing to stay at CRA. That's important because it speaks to, are we getting the environment right? Are we getting the culture right? But it also is really important because when you're not filling holes of departures, particularly of revenue generators, growth becomes that much easier, in which we'll talk about in a couple of slides. We've been growing pretty consistently, and we've been growing profitably for an extended window of time. So I mentioned the two lines of business. I'm going to highlight the firms that make up our management consulting. All the rest are in the legal regulatory. So management consulting, the largest practice, our third largest practice at CRA is our life sciences practice, followed by the energy practice, auctions and competitive bidding, and Maricon. The rest of those are legal regulatory. The largest practice at CRA is our antitrust and competition economics practice. So what do they do? It's hard to open the press where you're not seeing discussions about regulators cracking down on Google, Amazon, Meta, not just here in the States, but abroad. For every one of those matters, we're working on those cases. There was for years, right, the Microsoft Activision merger on that, and it finally got approved a few months ago. One of our leading vice presidents at CRA, Liz Bailey, lots of consulting firms worked on that, but the judge that oversaw the approval here in the States widely cited Liz in his decision to approve that merger. So it gives you an example. When companies are looking to combine their firms, who do they go to? Yes, they have law firms advising them, but they will come to CRA to help them navigate the regulatory setting. And that matter was across multiple jurisdictions, Europe, here in the States, in the UK, all different teams working together across our portfolio of services. Other things that they do, you also are reading about the crackdown of how do the regulators control the market power of these large companies, right? Because I don't even like using the word technology companies because it's hard to classify an Amazon today or Google as purely a technology company. They're in a broad array of industries, which makes trying to harness that market power even more difficult for the regulators. The majority of time we're working on behalf of the companies in these, but every once in a while we also will work with the regulators. Rate schedules are the same irrespective of where you go, who we work with, I'm sorry. So we mentioned some of those. In just the last 2 years, we've worked for over 80 of the Fortune 100 companies. Why do I highlight this? We are the go-to provider for companies when they're facing complex matters. Our sweet spot is the intersection of regulation and economics, and all these firms come to CRA for that assistance. When you look at our penetration into the legal community, oftentimes we're hired by law firms on behalf of the companies on that Fortune 100 sheet. What you can see is everyone hires us, right? Just the last 2 years, again, 97 of the AmLaw 100 firms come to CRA for assistance on these matters. So you have a little flavor about what we do. How's the performance been? And we highlighted like 3 buckets here, 18 to 22, 22, and 23. What you can see across that is we're growing, and we're growing profitably. Our margins have been steadily expanding over the last 5 years. So you're seeing revenue growth, you're seeing profitability growth, and at the same time, you're seeing us return substantive capital back to our shareholders. In the last 10 years, we've reduced our share count by more than 30%. Why is that? Because our stock, unfortunately, is a good value. If I compare our stock to the intrinsic valuations that we do, and you don't have to kick the tires real hard, you will also see a valuation that you do is higher than the prevailing stock price. And we take advantage of that through share repurchases. What you can see is from 18 to 22, we bought $132 million of shares. Average price, for those who can't see it there, $60. Last I checked this morning, stock was trading at 95 with it. So pretty good return for our shareholders. So this is not repurchases just to offset executive compensation here. These are purchases because it is a good investment. If you look at 22, price, right, only a year and a half ago, price of 86. So we've been able to turn positive returns in relatively short periods of time, and even the 23 average price of 111 will be surpassing that too. In addition, about half dozen years ago, is that right? Half dozen?
2016.
We initiated dividend, and that dividend has about tripled over that window of time. Why did we initiate a dividend? Typically, companies issue dividends when there's no other growth opportunities resident or the stock is fully valued. Neither one of those are the reasons why CRA issued a dividend. The reason we issued a dividend is because we need to get in front of more eyes, right? The more people look at our stock, the more information comes into the market, and the more likelihood we have of getting that intrinsic value to start looking more like the prevailing market price. Those dividends only make up roughly about 20% of our total redistributions back to our shareholders annually. I'm going to spend a couple minutes on this. So our investment thesis at CRA is to maximize the long-term value per share. Each of those words have very specific meaning as to how management runs the firm. Long-term value. I'm not trying to maximize the next quarter's earnings or the next quarter revenue. Why? Because I can't. If I had those levers, trust me, I'd be pulling them all over the place. It's not the way you generate growth. It's not the way you generate, build a culture and build retention into the firms. We do things with a multi-year horizon, a multi-year payback. We have pretty intricate models of how we track our returns, and our goal is to surpass our cost of capital, which is right around that 10-11% in the last few years for those who care on that. The per share piece, right? When I think of it, my goal is to maximize the value of an investor with a single share, right? Hopefully one day I'm that last investor standing. I'm not worried about, gee, Paul, with 30% reduction of share count, hasn't your liquidity gone down? Isn't it difficult for investors to get in and out of your stock? And the answer to all those is no, it's not. Actually, with the reduction of the share count over these past 10 years, the dollar value of our trading volume has actually gone up. All liquidity measures for companies multiple the size of CRA, CRA is as liquid as these other firms. And there's multiple examples of very large fund managers getting in with 5, 10, 15% holdings in CRA and getting out. We have Fidelity, have done that multiple times. And if you just look at our list of institutional investors, it's sort of a who's who of people, and they haven't had that problem of investing. The growth has been pretty consistent. The last 5 years, we have in each of those years achieved record levels of revenue. That's all great, but again, when your goal is to maximize the long-term value per share, I'm not chasing a revenue bogey, right? I'm chasing to maximize the value for my shareholders on that. One nuance for those who are at all intrigued that you may want to look into this. CRA grows one of two ways. We grow organically, we grow inorganically. We define inorganic growth as when I have to pay capital to an individual, to a group of individuals, to a company to bring on that incremental stream of revenue and profits. When you're acquiring a company, the accounting rules are pretty straightforward, right? There's capital that goes out. The accounting rules tell you exactly how those things should flow through your balance sheet, flow through your income statement. How about if I have an individual that is a $10 million revenue generator, preeminent professor at some university, pick your favorite, right? And he's demanding, ease of math, 1 times revenue, right? Same as a brick and mortar company would be asking 1 times revenue. If I then pay the $10 million to bring on that book of revenue at CRA, the accounting rules say that, say I give him a forgivable loan, was actually invented in the brokerage industry amongst that. So what it is, a 5-year loan, that means every year, 1/5 of the $10 million will be forgiven, so $2 million. Where does that amortization fall? It flows through our income statement. So when you're looking at CRAI's income statement for a $10 million acquisition of a brick and mortar company, C Corp, and a $10 million acquisition of the Prem Professor, our income statement would look very different, right? Because one is flowing through your balance sheet, the other is flowing through your income statement. So here it's showing our revenue, our EBITDA, and the non-cash amortization of these forgivable loans. The SEC, a few years ago, we used to provide a profit measure called adjusted EBITDA, okay? SEC called me into their office, said you can't do that, okay? You can't add this cash flow item to your income statement item. And I said, okay, can I put them on the same sheet? Yes, you can. Okay, can I add them up? No, you can't. Okay, so that's why this exhibit exists with it. What I can tell you is it's not smoke and mirrors, right? I'm not saying that the $10 million is not a true cash outlay. It is. But all I'm saying is if you're taking our cash flows from operations without making an adjustment for this forgivable loan, you'll be double counting the impact of these acquisitions. So we're saying it is an outlay, but you just have to properly use the financial items in order to capture that. Here is over the last 5 years, you see where our capital is going. Not surprising, right? Who are the big users? Talent, inorganic growth. The other is the return of capital to our shareholders. We believe we can grow consistent with what we've been growing in the past and still return about half of our cash flows from ops to our shareholders. That's been the stated goal. The caveat there is if I have opportunities to invest in talent, I'm always going to take that before giving money back to all of you. Right? Always reinvest in the business first because those opportunities are episodic and I can't come back to it just when I feel like it with it. Okay? Let me see. I have about 2 more minutes and I will stop talking. The talent investment, it just gives some summaries here of where the outlays have been. We're pretty focused. We have a portfolio of services and the investments have been to add depth to those services. I'm not looking to expand the breadth of our service portfolio. I like the geographies that we service. So we're going to do what we're best at because we believe there's a lot of greenfield left in that area. The CapEx, about 10 years ago, we needed to expand our office footprint. So you saw more capital outlays for that. We, right now, are probably 80-85% on average in terms of the capacity of our offices. So we still have quite a bit of space to continue to grow in, particularly given the ebbs and flows of trying to get my colleagues back in the office, always re-examining the new usage of that space going forward. But the good news is the next 5 years are going to be maybe roughly consistent with what we have there. And then on the shareholder redistributions there, you can see, reducing the share count by the 14% there, the initiation of the dividend. Our shareholder yield over those last 5 years is roughly about 7%. So pretty significant for a firm that is growing. The shareholder yield isn't as large because of our value is declining. The shareholder yield is as strong is because of the combination of the redistributions and the growth of the value. So I think I'm going to stop there. See if there's any questions.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Just before we open up for the audience questions, I have one quick one. In one of the slides, you offered utilization metric,
Yeah.
about mid-70s.
Yep.
How do you balance that headcount growth with project growth? And is it difficult to do that dance?
Yes, yes, absolutely. 2023 has been a challenge. If you look at our history of utilization in the last 10 years, it's like a flat line. Year after year, 74, 75%, 76%. We've had some sawtooth pattern in 2023. Why is that? It's twofold. One, attrition rates this year are at historic lows. And CRAI is not unique to that. Maybe your companies are experiencing. No one is resigning voluntarily on that. Yep, thank you. No one's resigning voluntarily there, and we haven't gone through any kind of layoff or restructuring. We don't think we have to. We think normal, even lower than historical average attrition rates should get us to better matching our demand and our supply of that. The other reason is last 10 years we track our lead flow, like a lot of companies do. We track our lead flow and we look at the conversion of that lead flow into revenue generating projects, okay? Historically, it's about 2/3, right? For every 10 leads we get, we're going to convert roughly 2/3 of those leads into revenue generating projects. 2023 has seen it drop to high 50s. In another quarter, it's back up to 64, 65. So I've seen the volatility that we're seeing in the marketplace create some volatility in those conversion rates. The best research we can muster says we're not losing market share on that. Clients are just not pulling the trigger to expend those things. An example I can give you, we get called a lot on prospective mergers. The client says, can you clear? We're looking to combine these two companies. We clear it, they said, okay, hold tight. We see that the merger is never announced. It's never filed with the regulators, so it's just been put on the shelf for a while for it. So those two things combined have made our utilization be closer to about 70%. Our long-term goal is to be in the mid-70s. I don't think there's been anything systematic in terms of the change that I view us not being able to get there in the medium term.
Any questions from the audience? Yes.
Yeah, quick question on the repurchase program and this disconnect as you referenced it. What valuation framework are you using internally to inform that decision?
Yeah, so, I'm a consultant by heart. My background has been in the financial markets, like corporate finance. So when work stresses me out, I go back to my binky. Which is a number. So we'll use DCF, we'll use option frameworks if there's some growth opportunities to do that. I'll compare that to what I'm observing in comparable companies in the marketplace. And the triangulation is pretty tight. The triangulation of those things with using pretty basic assumptions. So if you use the DCF and you say, oh, they've grown this much average in the last 10 years, I'm not even trying to pick the last 3 years, which are higher growth rates. You plug that in, you plug the historical return of capital, and you're gonna get a number that you're gonna hit your screen and go, this can't be right. And for an efficient market guy, this has been really stressful when you see that, the prevailing price, but that's why we get after it, we get out meeting investors, and ultimately, I think the market will get it right, and I think we'll be in a good state there.
Time for one quick question. Anybody from the audience?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a recurring revenue stream at all in the embedded base of consulting to keep guys on
Yeah,
a file?
yeah. So my recurring revenue stream is those relationships that I had that I showed you with the Fortune 100 like that. I don't have a contract with Google that says you will pay me $10 million a year for the next 5 years. So I don't have those kind of contracts. But what you see is if I went back 3 years and I showed you those 2 slides, it's the same. It will be, gee, we worked for 84 of the Fortune 100 and 96 of the AmLaw 100. So it's the relationships that are depth that are giving some of the stability, but no, I don't have any kind of annuity contracts.
I'm sorry, I just want.
With more than 6,000 small and micro-cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple, then ChannelCheck truly is your tree. It's an investor community where you can access independent Wall Street research, advanced market data, balanced news, corporate videos, and podcasts. You can even register to attend in-person Meet the Management Series luncheons, and to be part of the preeminent annual Small and Micro-Cap Investor Conference, NobleCon. And here's the best news. Since ChannelCheck is sponsored by the featured companies, premium membership requires no investment. It's absolutely free. So check it out. Log in today. Find out why ChannelCheck is North America's leading source of research on the companies that just may change the world.